Commander Lena Hartman sat in the bridge of the scout vessel Artemis, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. The stars moved past in silent lines of light as the ship sliced through empty space. Outside, the void lay only silent darkness and distant suns. Inside, the crew worked in calm order, tapping controls and checking readouts. No one spoke above a soft murmur, yet Lena felt a tight knot of tension in her chest. Something was coming, something they had never faced before. Lieutenant Jaya Singh leaned forward in her station chair. Her fingers danced across the holo display as she scanned for any sign of life. The Artemis had been on a routine patrol along the edge of human-charted territory. They had left Earth 6 months ago. On a quiet mission of exploration, no one expected to find anything unusual. But then the signal had arrived, a signal that should not have existed. The first hint appeared as a faint blip in the long-range sensors, hardly more than a flicker. It hid under layers of static. At first, Jaya thought it was a glitch in the system, but when she isolated the pulse, she saw patterns that did not match any known star flare or asteroid echo. The pattern repeated in odd intervals. Jaya called Lena over. Together, they watched the code scroll in vertical lines. Then they heard it, a faint echo of human voices buried deep in white noise. Lena's heart pounded as she analyzed the frequency. The voices were broken and twisted. They spoke a single word over and over. Help. Each cry was cut short by static or a sudden burst of hiss. It was the voice of someone trapped, someone lost. The crew fell silent. Even the low hum of the Artemis's engine seemed to pause. In that moment, they all understood this was not a test. It was a call from the past. Dr. Malik, the ship's xenolinguist, tapped at her console and brought up an analysis window. These fragments match the data we have on the Nova Aurora colony ship, she said in a hushed tone. The Nova Aurora had vanished 40 years ago. It left Earth with hopes of building a new home on a distant world. Then it disappeared without a trace. Official records declared the crew lost, the ship destroyed by unknown causes. No distress calls had ever been recorded until now. Lena gathered her senior officers in the small briefing room. The blue light of the holo table cast ghostly shadows on their faces. We are ready to change history, she said. We have a real chance to learn what happened to those pioneers. But we must also prepare for danger. We do not know what waits at the source of that signal. The officers nodded, their faces showing a mix of excitement and fear. Orders were given. The Artemis would adjust course and follow the signal. They crossed into uncharted space for 2 long days. The crew tracked the pulse through star systems and asteroid belts. The signal grew stronger, yet it remained muffled, as if hidden behind a thick wall of rock and metal. Each time they neared the source, the noise spiked, filling the bridge with harsh static that made the fittings tremble. Then it would vanish again, leaving only silence. Jaya and Dr. Malik worked in shifts to decode what they could. They pieced together star charts, logs, and partial messages. Every new fragment deepened the mystery. Finally, the Artemis entered orbit around a small terrestrial planet. On the view screen, a world of red dust and rocky plains stretched beneath them. Deep canyons cut through the surface like scars, faded. Lights flickered at the edge of what once might have been cities. Jagged mountain ranges glowed soft pink under a pale red sun. Lena's breath caught as she realized how quiet it was. No atmosphere storms, no signs of life, only the ruins of a forgotten battle. Lena stood and addressed her crew. We will land in 2 hours at Site Alpha. Prepare the shuttles and gear. Stay alert. We do not know what happened here, but we must move carefully. The officers hurried off to carry out their tasks. Lena returned to the bridge and stared at the planet one last time. The red haze seemed to swirl with stories that waited to be told. She wondered if the lost souls of the Nova Aurora crew still called out in the dark below. As the Artemis began its descent, the view screen closed in on the landing zone. Twisted metal, broken walls, and shadowed figures filled the frame. The signal, now loud and clear, played on every channel. Help us, help us. Lena's finger hovered over the shuttle launch button. The part ended on her final command, leaving the fate of the lost pioneers and her own crew hanging in the balance. The silent battlefield its most danced in the pale light that filtered through the broken canopy of an ancient fighting mech half submerged in red sand. The machine's gun turret lay frozen at an angle, as if it had paused mid-battle and never woke. Lieutenant Jaya Singh pressed her palm against its rusted hull, feeling a faint vibration under her glove. It sounded like a heartbeat caught in static around her. The crew of the Artemis stood in awed silence. No one spoke. Even their breaths seemed loud against the hush of this forgotten war zone. Commander Lena Hartman led the way down the mech stair like treads, her boot pressing into gritty dust. Each step kicked up tiny clouds of rust-colored sand. The landscape stretched before them like a battlefield frozen in time. Crumbled walls of once grand buildings stood half-buried. Scorched tanks lay overturned, their tracks bent inward like trapped beasts, strange antennae poked from the ground, their wires dangling like broken veins. No birds flew overhead, no wind stirred. It felt as if the world kept watch in solemn tribute to its own end. Sergeant Ortiz unclipped a small drone from his belt and sent it hovering forward. Its camera lights blinked as it scanned the terrain. On the view screen, ghostly shapes shimmered between rubble. They looked like figures caught in motion, soldiers reaching for fallen comrades. Medics kneeling beside the wounded. The images flickered so fast they seemed unreal, like dreams bleeding into reality. Lena watched her screen, heart pounding. Are these holograms? She whispered. Dr. Malik, observing from a few meters away, shook her head. No, I see only raw data, but something is replaying those final moments for us. As the drone hovered ahead, the team moved in tight formation. The air tasted of rust and old fire. Every footstep cracked like a rifle shot in the silence. Medic Jaya bent to inspect a battered helmet lying beside a shattered weapon. The helmet's visor was smashed, but inside lay a faded insignia, the mark of the Nova Aurora security force. Jaya glanced up at Lena. They fought here, she said softly. These are our pioneers. A hush fell over the group. They had expected ruins, but they had not been ready to feel the weight of real lives lost. The drone banked toward a wide crater in the center of what must have been a plaza. Faint mechanical words echoed from below. Lena held up a signal hand and called for Ortiz to land the drone. When the device touched the ground, its lights dimmed and it rolled forward on small treads. The crew followed. Inside the crater's edge, dozens of skeletons lay strewn against collapsed columns. Their armor fused to broken stone. Rusted rifles and scorched gear lay everywhere, frozen mid-fall. Some bones still clutched personal items, lockets, folded, letters, a single photograph of smiling faces under Earth's blue sky. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled. Tiny cracks snaked through the dust. Ortiz caught his balance, hand against a nearby wall. The drone emitted a high-pitched shriek. Lena's eyes narrowed. Stay sharp, she ordered. This place is unstable. They backed away, but the tremor grew stronger. A low rumble rolled through the broken plaza, and deep fissures split the sand. From one crack came a soft moan like metal grinding against metal. The crew froze, scanning the darkness below. Then, with a burst of red-orange light, something moved. A massive tank-like shell slid into view, its tracks grinding against stone. It was no longer an empty wreck, but an active war machine, its guns powering up with a dull glow. Lena drew her sidearm, voice calm but firm. Form up. Defensive positions. The crew raised their weapons, training them on the emerging threat. The tank's hatch hissed open, but no pilot climbed out. Instead, a swarm of small drones spilled forth, their bodies sleek and black. They hovered at chest height, sensors glowing. The same eerie heartbeat vibration pulsed through the air. Jaya fired a warning shot. The drone swarm scattered, then regrouped in a circle around the crew. Their lights flickered in unison, and the voice came again, raw, pleading, urgent. Help us, help us. The words echoed inside Lena's helmet, cutting through her. Training. She glanced at Dr. Malik. They want rescue, she shouted over the comms. But who, what? Before the question finished, the ground convulsed once more. From the crater's depths, a shape loomed, a towering figure clad in dark armor, its eyes glowing like dying embers. It raised a hand, and the drones darted forward like angry insects. Lena fired at them, but the bolts passed through as if the drones were made of light. The figure advanced, boots crushing bones and metal alike. Its armor bore the same insignia as the Nova Aurora, but twisted, as if corrupted by time and violence. Lena's breath caught. This was the monster they had heard in the signal. The thing born of human fear and science gone wrong. The silent battlefield, once a monument to courage, had become its prison. Now it was waking. Lena steadied her rifle and took aim at the creature's chest plate. As she fired, the projectiles exploded in sparks of blue energy. The monster staggered, but did not fall. It let out a growl that shook the crew's bones. The part ends with Lena's face lit by muzzle flashes, hard hammering as the silent battlefield erupted into deadly life. The ancient war had returned. and the crew of the Artemis stood between its victims and its wrath. Echoes of the past, the entrance to the bunker yawned before them like a frozen mouth. Commander Lena Hartman led the way down a narrow stairwell, the lights above flickering as if struggling to wake. Each step echoed in the metal shaft, and behind her, the rest of the Artemis crew followed in tight formation. The air smelled of dust and old electronics. Something ancient waited below, and every heartbeat drummed with possibility. At the bottom of the stairs, Lieutenant Jaya Singh tapped her helmet light against the wall. Strange symbols glowed faintly in the grime letters in shapes unlike any human language. Dr. Malik knelt to trace them with a gloved finger. "This looks like alien script," she murmured. "Maybe instructions or warnings." The group exchanged uneasy glances. The Nova Aurora mission logs never mentioned alien contact. Had the pioneers met friends or foes before the end? They pressed on into a vast chamber. In the center stood a circular platform, half buried under debris. Around its edge, dozens of glass cylinders hung suspended, filled with a smoky haze. Cables snaked from each cylinder to a console covered in dust. When Lena reached out to brush the grime away, the whole system hummed to life. The cylinders glowed, and holographic beams shot upward in shimmering blue arcs. Suddenly the air filled with voices, soft at first, then growing louder. Holograms flickered to life around the room, men and women in sleek colony uniforms, their faces lit with hope and fear. They spoke to each other in hurried tones, pointing at star charts and energy readings. Lena recognized the voice of Captain Rivera, who had led the Nova Aurora. He barked orders to prepare defensive turrets, warning of something massive approaching. Behind the colony crew, strange silhouettes moved in the haze. At first the shapes looked like towering rock formations, but then they shifted, revealing armored bodies and glowing eyes. Alien beings, perhaps allies or invaders, stood beside humans. The pioneers fought in unison, their weapons blazing. Lena watched transfixed as the hologram replayed every moment in slow motion. A cascade of laser fire, the snap of energy shields, and the sudden collapse of a massive alien vessel overhead. Then the scene turned dark. In the flicker, some human figures broke formation. 2 officers aimed their weapons sideways, striking at fellow soldiers whose armor bore the colony insignia. Betrayal had taken root. The hologram showed wide, terror-filled eyes as friend turned on friend. Jaya gasped aloud. They weren't just fighting an enemy, she said. They were fighting each other. The final moments came in a flash of white light that shattered the holograms. The cylinders cracked and hissed, showering the floor with sparks. For a heartbeat, the whole bunker trembled, and Lena felt the air pulse around her. Then silence reclaimed the room, broken only by the echo of her racing breath. Dr. Malik studied the console's last record, a log labeled Project Ascension. The screen showed a single word before the cutoff: sacrifice. Lena stared at the word as panic rose. Had the colony's leaders triggered something they could not control? Had they unleashed a weapon that destroyed both ally and foe? A distant rumble sent dust drifting from overhead pipes. The bunker's walls groaned as if waking from a long sleep. Lena raised her rifle. "We need to move," she ordered, voice firm despite the shock. "This place is falling apart." The crew backed away from the platform, but the trembling grew. Metal girders cracked above them, and a flood of stale air rushed through a newly opened grate. As they turned to flee, the flickering lights revealed one last vision on the bunker wall, a ghostly silhouette of Captain Rivera reaching out, mouth open in a silent plea. Then the image dissolved into darkness. The part ends with Lena leading her shaken team toward the exit, the echoes of the past and the secrets of betrayal haunting every step. The mirror of fear, a Dothan, ran through the corridor as Commander Lena Hartman guided her crew deeper into the heart of the bunker. The walls here were slick with condensation, and stray wires dangled like silent alarms. Each footstep echoed in the gloom, reminding them that they were not alone. The weak glow of emergency lights cast long shadows that seemed to twist and writhe at the edge of vision. Lieutenant Jaya Singh paused at a junction where the passage split in two. She consulted her wrist console, its map flickering. "This way," she said, pointing down the narrower hall. The team moved forward, weapons raised. Breath held. The air grew colder, and the distant hum of machinery grew louder. Like a beast waking from a long sleep, at the end of the hall, they found a massive door carved with the Nova Aurora emblem wings spread over a star. Rust and corrosion had barely hidden the symbol's proud lines. Lena placed her hand on the panel beside it. The door hissed and slid open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. In its center stood a towering figure, its back turned to them. The creature's armor gleamed black as obsidian, etched with alien runes. That pulsed faintly with red light. Its head, shaped like a warrior's helm, crowned glowing eyes that flickered in darkness. Around its feet lay shattered fragments of human and alien weapons alike. The silence pressed in, heavy as stone. Lena swallowed hard. "Identify," she whispered into her calms. No reply came. The figure remained still, as if carved from the very metal of the bunker. Then it turned, slowly, and the lights revealed its face, an impossible fusion of human features and alien bone. The mouth was human, but split by a jagged crack that glowed from within. The eyes held sorrow and rage, as if the creature carried every fear and regret ever known. Dr. Malik gasped. "It's built from them, all of them," she said. "Every pioneer, every colonist, every alien ally." The monster raised a hand, and in its palm floated a small holo projector. It showed flickering images of the lost Nova Aurora crew, happy faces at launch, hopeful families, the first skirmish with unknown foes. Each image shattered like glass, replaced by scenes of betrayal, friends firing on friends, alien comrades collapsing in flames. Jaya's voice trembled. "It's their memory, made real." The creature's roar echoed through the chamber, a sound of grief and vengeance. Lena steadied her rifle. "We came to help," she called out. "Let us end this suffering." For a moment, the monster wavered. The runes on its armor dimmed, and the red glow softened. Then, with a furious cry, it slammed its fist into the floor. Metal groaned and sparks flew. The part ends as Lena steadies her aim, the monster's anguished cry ringing in her ears, and the crew realizes this enemy is not an invader, but the very souls they came to save. The crucible of Escapia, low rumble shook the narrow tunnel. As Commander Lena Hartman peered ahead into darkness, the ancient metal walls oozed moisture, and broken lights flickered overhead. Behind her, the crew of the Artemis huddled close, their breath visible in the cold air. Each footstep echoed like a warning. The bunker was collapsing, and the monstrous guardian paced above, its heavy boots shaking the ground. Engineer Raul Santos knelt by a bundle of frayed cables jutting from the wall. He worked furiously, stripping wires and connecting them to a battered power cell. "This EMP will buy us time," he whispered, sweat mixing with dirt on his brow. If it discharged near the creature's drones, their circuits might fry long, enough for the crew to slip past. Raul's fingers trembled as he armed the device, his eyes flicking toward the exit shaft at the end of the corridor. Medic Jaya Singh moved among the team, tending to Lieutenant Ortiz's bleeding arm and supplying oxygen to a weakened security officer. Her calm voice cut through the tension. "Hold on, just a little longer," she murmured, pressing the sterile bandage into a dark red stain. She glanced at Raul, then at Lena. "Are we ready?" Lena nodded. "Ready," she said. "Let's make it count." Lena raised her rifle and signaled. Raul pressed the activation switch, and a low hum filled the tunnel. Orange sparks danced along the walls as the imp charged. Suddenly, the monster's roar trembled through the steel above them, and the drone's lights winked out in the distance. In that moment of silence, Lena bounded forward, leading the team in a desperate sprint. They raced through twisting corridors, the bunker groaning and spitting debris around them. Jagged metal beams fell like lightning strikes, forcing them to dodge left and right. Jaya supported Ortiz as they ran, every step a gamble over broken flooring and exposed pipes. The taste of dust filled their mouths. The exit shaft loomed ahead, a round hatch set high in the ceiling. A rope ladder dangled inside, swaying gently as if inviting them to climb. Lena grabbed the ladder and hauled herself up. She turned and extended a hand to Jaya. "Go," she urged. One by one, the crew scrambled up, boots scraping on metal rungs. Below them, the bunker shook harder. A distant explosion sent a wave of hot air rushing past the hatch just as the last crew member began to climb. A slab of concrete from the tunnel floor shattered the hatch's frame. The monster's armored fist broke through, reaching for the ladder. Lena felt the metal shudder under her grip. She fired a pulse round into the creature's hand, sparks flying where energy met armor. The beast recoiled with a roar that rattled. Her teeth. Jaya slid through the hatch, turning to help another crewmate. Lena hesitated only a second before pulling herself up. She slammed the hatch shut behind her, her heart hammering. She could hear the creature pounding below, its frustration echoing in every bone. Above them, the hatch sealed with a hiss of pressure. In the dim safety of the shuttle bay, the crew huddled against the cold bulkhead. Their faces were streaked with sweat and dust. A relief shone in their eyes. Lena unclipped her comm and whispered into the mic, "Artemis, lift off now." As the engines roared to life, the bunker's final collapse shook the deck. The part ends with the Artemis rising on glowing thrusters, leaving the crucible of escape behind and carrying wounds that would never fully heal. The final stand, Commander Lena Hartman stood on the scorched plain as the red sky darkened. The ruined city lay behind her, but the creature they faced had grown stronger. Its armor glowed with angry red veins, and its drones swarmed like angry hornets. Lena felt the weight of history on her shoulders, the fate of the lost pioneers, and her own crew now rested on this moment. Engineer Raul Santos carried the alien power core they had scavenged from the bunker's control room. He planted it in the center of a makeshift energy ring Lena had drawn in the dust. The ring of cables and metal plates hummed as Jaya sang, and the security team locked the core into place. When Raul flipped the switch, the ring came alive with pale blue light. It formed a barrier that crackled in the air, ready to hold the creature at bay. Lena gave the signal. Ortiz and 2 others opened fire on the drones, their pulse rifles sending arcs of light through the dark. The barrier held back the creature's advance, but only for a moment. With a roar, it smashed against the shield, forcing sparks to rain down. Lena raced forward, rifle raised. Her voice calm over the comms. "Hold the line. Protect that core." The crew fought with every ounce of strength they had. Jaya moved among them, firing her weapon and calling out warnings. Raul adjusted the core's frequency, trying to boost the barrier's strength. Lena took aim at the creature's glowing chest plate, its one clear weak point. She fired round after round, but the shots only grazed the armor. Realizing time had run out, Lena pressed her hand to the core's control panel and shouted, "Now." Raul triggered a pulse that sent a wave of energy through the ring. The barrier exploded outward in a blinding flash. The creature let out one last anguished cry as its form shattered into drifting motes of light. When the glow faded, the plane lay silent. The battered crew gathered around Lena, their faces streaked with sweat and tears. She placed a hand on the still warm core and whispered, "You saved us all." In that moment, the last ember of the first battle died down. A new hope was born for all humanity. A new dawn as the Artemis climbed away from the scarred planet. Commander Lena Hartman stood at the viewport, her eyes tracing the fading red clouds below. The once deserted world now glowed softly with new energy. Tiny green shoots poked through the cracked soil where the final explosion had cleared the dust. Lena felt a quiet hope stirring in her chest, like the first light of dawn after a long night. Below, the shattered remnants of the bunker lay half buried, its corridors collapsed and silent. The alien machinery hummed no more. What had been a prison of ghosts and fear was now a place of peace. Lena remembered the faces in the holograms, the brave pioneers who had fought for a future they never saw. They had called for help, and now, at last, someone had heard them die in the ship's common room. The crew gathered around a small holodeck. Lieutenant Jaya Singh arranged data fragments into a clear message. Their report combined scientific findings, the colony's true story, and the warning that no world should suffer such loss again. Dr. Malik added translations of the alien runes, revealing pleas for unity rather than conflict. Each word carried the weight of sacrifice, yet also the promise of learning from the past. Raul Santos checked the ship's communications array and gave a thumbs up, ready to send. He said, with a steady hand, Lena initiated the broadcast. A simple signal shot through space toward Earth. "We found the Nova Aurora. We know what happened. We will not repeat their mistakes." In the silent hum of the Artemis, the crew watched their message leave the ship and head home. As they entered hyperspace, the crew stood together in quiet reflection. Ortiz, once wounded and weary, now held his rifle like a storyteller holding a pen ready to share the saga of survival. Jaya smiled at Malik, relief shining in her eyes. They had come as explorers and found a lesson in loss and forgiveness. They had fought a monster born of fear and proved that courage and compassion could forge a new path. Lena slipped into her chair on the bridge, the stars streaking past in brilliant lines. She whispered to herself, "We carry them with us." The names of the lost crew filled her mind. No longer echoes and static, but voices in her heart. She vowed to build a future where no one's call for help went unheard. Dot in the distance, Earth awaited with questions and wonder. The Artemis would return bearing truth and hope. And as the final light of the red planet vanished behind them, a new dawn rose for all humankind, one born from the echoes of the first battle and guided by the promise of tomorrow.